Okay, so we're going to be showing you in this how you set up your Visual Studio to work with Entity Framework. Now, out of the box, Visual Studio works with Microsoft SQL Server and Entity Framework, but doesn't support SQLite, which is going to be the database we're going to be using for our projects. So the first time that you use a new computer that has Visual Studio on it and you want to work with SQLite, you're going to have to install this extra library. This is not technically required with some of the ways you can work with Entity Framework, but if you want the visual tools, that is the tools that will let you actually see the database diagram and things like that, you do need to install it. And since the training resources I've developed for this course are going to be using those visual tools, it makes sense that we learn how to set up our copy of Visual Studio to work with the visual tools that are available to us. So you'll notice at the moment I've shut down Visual Studio. I don't want that running in the background when it comes time to install. First thing we need to know is where to go to get the library we're going to need, and that's outside of Visual Studio. So the location we're going to go to is the SQLite website, and what we're looking for is the system.data.sqlite.org. And this site has a whole bunch of downloads in a wiki. So if you want to get that web address, it will be in the description for this video. And also you could pause this video if you want as well. This may change at some point in the future. So if it's not working for you when you're watching this video, I'd be doing a Google looking for SQLite and then system.data SQLite and see what you find. Okay, so now we've got that address, we'll go to a web browser and we'll pull up the page. Okay, so this is the page that you'll see once you put in that URL. You can see there we're on the SQLite home pages here, or not home page, but the SQLite home website. And what we need to do is make sure we download the correct version of the tools for our particular version of Visual Studio. Now, the version that I'm teaching with at the moment while recording this video is Visual Studio 2015. So I'm going to go down the list here until we find a match for that. So as I go down the list here, you can see over here it's telling us that this setup package, for example, is for the design time components, which is what we want, but for Visual Studio 2008. So we don't want that. There's the 2010, 2012, 2013, bingo, here we go. Setup package for design time components for Visual Studio 2015. So this is the version that we want. This will be the library over here, but there's one other thing we need to make a note of at this point, and that is that if we install this package, our .NET framework applications that we develop will have to be version 4.6. So that'll be important a little bit later on when it comes to actually doing our first SQLite program, but just make a note when you're downloading the package what version of the framework that it goes with. Okay, so we're going to download this file here, which is the SQLite setup bundle. Okay, so our download's complete. Let's go and have a look at the package itself. And there it is there. It's the SQLite NetFX 46 setup bundle. Double click on it to start the installer. You want the full installation. Now when you get to this step here, it says what options you want to install. Please make sure that you've included the install the assemblies in the global assembly cache, and then clicked the install the designer components. When you first run this installer, I've run this before, so it's remembered my settings. But when you first run it for the first time, these will not be selected. So you need to make sure you've got the designer components selected and that it's for the version of Visual Studio that you're currently trying to work with. Click Next, click Install, and it will go ahead and install the bits and pieces that you're going to need so you can use the visual tools and visual design tools in Visual Studio to work with SQLite and Entity Framework. Okay, so we'll finish the installer. And that's it. We've now installed the tools and we're ready to start up Visual Studio and create our WPF project.